Right now you're looking at me through a $200 4K webcam, and now you're looking at me through the Lumix S1 II setup that costs a few $1,000s with a lens with a max aperture of f1.4. And honestly, this $200 webcam is the YoloCam S3, and it's easily one of the best webcams I've ever used. If you ever tried to make your Zoom call, live stream, meetings, or YouTube setup look professional due to having a tight budget and unable to afford an expensive full-frame camera like the Lumix S1 Mark II, which I need to record this video, or even the S9, you already know the frustration. Soft image, weird autofocus, over-processed skin, flat lighting, no matter what you do. I didn't expect much from this webcam, but after putting it through its paces, I was genuinely impressed with the YoloCam S3. This might be the first webcam I'll actually use for YouTube if I didn't have a camera. Now, before we go deeper, if you care about gear that genuinely improves your content and not just hype, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel more than you think. And if you want to check this out for yourself, I'll leave links down in the description so you can see current pricing in dollars or pounds, depending on where you're watching from or where you are. Let's get into it. So what makes it different from any other webcam out there? Well, most webcams are tiny sensors inside plastic bodies, but this one has a 1/1.3-inch sensor, which is massive for a webcam. And if you're not aware, sensor size matters. Yes, it affects detail, it affects light performance, it affects depth of field, and ultimately how real the image feels. And the first time I plugged the S3 in, I noticed something. It looked better than what I have seen from most webcams. Before we get even deeper into specs, let me quickly show you something important, because here's the reality of most camera setups. If you want to use something like my Lumix S1 Mark II for streaming or video calls, your setup usually looks something like this. You've got the camera body, a lens, a cable, a power adapter, even battery in the camera with the camera connected to the wall using a power adapter, a power bank, or a V-mount battery, and you need sometimes a tripod or something to hold your camera, all that just to have this camera set up. Now compare that to this, the YoloCam S3, one cable, USB-C into your computer, and you live. That simplicity is actually where this camera becomes really interesting. Like right now, I just have the webcam just connected directly to my computer, which is behind the S1 II and the Yolo S3. The S3 shoots up to 4K at 30 frames per second, but it can also drop to 1080p at 60 frames if you want smoother motion. And because it oversamples from the 4K sensor, the 1080p actually looks very sharp. Now, what really matters is how clean the image is. It's not overly sharpened, and if it does look too sharp to your eyes, you can actually tone this down. There's companion software called the YoloLiv Compose, which we'll look at shortly, because there's actually surprising amount of fine-tuning you can do with the software, things like manual zooming, exposure settings, white balance, and a lot more. Now, this is where most webcams fail, but the S3 doesn't. The S3 uses face detection autofocus, which is very impressive for a web camera. My Lumix S1 Mark II camera uses this, my S1R Mark II uses it, even my S5 2X, and most Sony cameras use face detect autofocus. If I move closer to the camera, you can see that it does a great job of keeping my face in focus. And if I bring a object like my hand closer to the lens or to the webcam, you can see that the background is there's that depth of field. You can see the background is blur or out of focus. You notice how quickly the focus switches to the object and how the background starts to blur slightly. That blur comes from its f1.89 aperture combined with the sensor. Now, to manage expectations, this is still a webcam, so you're not getting full frame cinematic depth like what you get from a Lumix S1R Mark II, or sorry, the Lumix S1 II. But compared to most webcams, it creates far more natural separation. So I can come closer, I can see that, and I'll lean out. And if you teach online, stream, present, or you're expressive on camera like I'm doing now, this matters more than resolution. Now, there's something I also tested, which some of you might care about, is whether this can work with a teleprompter. Maybe you didn't even know, but now you know. And the answer is yes. Yes, you can set this up with a teleprompter. With my newer X11 teleprompter, you can place the S3 with its adjustable magnetic stand inside the teleprompter housing. It works surprisingly well. This can be helpful for things like online teaching, presentation, streaming, gaming, live streams, reading scripts while maintaining eye contact, or talking to your audience virtually while maintaining eye contact. And again, this is not a cinematic f1.4 monster, but because of that shallow depth of field or that f1.89 aperture you get with this S3 camera, you have that some natural background separation, and that helps prevent the image from looking flat. Now, there's one test I ran later that honestly surprised me. I expected a webcam to struggle badly, but it actually performed far better than I thought it would. That's the low light test, and this is where most webcams completely fall apart. Low light is where most webcams start to break down. Noise creeps in, shadows fall apart, skin tones do get mushy and muddy. So to simulate something more realistic, I'm going to drop my 200 watt light from 75% down to 30%, just to create that monitor, that feel where you have sitting in front of the monitor with webcam, and it's just the only light in your face. So 1 second. So what do you guys think? I have my key light set to 30% brightness. My background light stays the same. At this point, I should mention that there's a lot of processing happening to the image captured by the S3. I'm recording straight into OBS, and later this will be processed in editing. But even with that in mind, I think I'm impressed with how the S3 handles lower light or low lit situation. I can see it on my screen. I've now increased my key light back to 75%, and that's where the practicality conversation starts, because not everyone wants to set up lights every time they jump on a call or want to stream or build an entire camera rig. Now let's talk about build quality. Sometimes affordable products feel cheap, but that's not the case here with the S3. The S3 has an all-metal aluminum build designed for durability and heat dissipation. The company even claims that it can handle 24/7 streaming. I've had this camera on for hours today before I even started recording, further testing before I made this video just to make sure that what I'm saying is factual, and it doesn't get too hot for me not to even disconnect or hold it for more than 5 seconds. It's not that hot. I can hold it for 30 seconds after just disconnecting it, even after using it for hours. There are magnets on two sides for landscape or vertical orientation, an indicator light that shows when the camera is active, a USB port at the back for simple connection, and the adjustable magnetic base lets you mount it on the monitor or tripod with a 1/4-20 thread. Now, this part is important because good hardware is one thing, but bad software can ruin everything. The S3 has a dedicated desktop app called YoloLiv Compose, which is from the YoloLiv company, and this is where you can unlock proper control over the S3 camera. Once you connect the YoloCam S3 to your computer, Compose recognizes it instantly. Mac, Windows, Intel, Apple Silicon, it just works. And this is where it stops feeling like a typical webcam and a camera you can manipulate, if not everything. Inside the app, you can switch between automatic and manual exposure. So if you actually care about controlling your lighting, instead of letting the camera guess, you can dial it in properly. There's also vignetting correction, which you can use to change that if you want. And if I scroll down, you can change the white balance like I mentioned, and you can have a manual where you can manually adjust your white balance. But I like to set it to auto and just have it locked. You can unlock it so it changes, the lighting changes, but I'd advise you to have it locked. If I drop or close the white balance, I can go into exposure and change my exposure. You can see it's set to auto and it's locked. You can have it in manual, and you can easily adjust the ISO. Right now 2500 seems to look nice, but that was auto. What you've been seeing was auto. Let's go to manual and maybe increase it to 200 and leave it here. I can adjust the shutter, but I'll leave it at where it is, 1/50, which is wrong for my frames per second. I'll push my frames per second to 25 so my shutter matches and it disconnects and reconnects. So currently this is 25 frames per second and my shutter is 1/50, which matches 25 frames per second. There's other things you can do there. You can AI parameter. I haven't used this, I haven't played with it, but I know, and I guess something that has to do with AI. And you can manually zoom in if you'd want. I can zoom all the way into my face. And I have the zoom set to 1, zoom speed set to 1. I can set it to 5, and zoom all the way in so you can see those nice lips and that nice beard, all the way in and all the way out. I think I like it at 1.1. And you have some other settings which you can set hotkeys, but I like it to slow zoom at speed 1. So you have focus where you can choose different focus settings. Right now I've set it to be my face, so if I come very close, it's focused on my face. If I move left or right, you see it's focused on my face. But if I put my hand in front of my face, it focuses on my hand. And this is very close. I'm really close to the camera. You can see how it's focusing on my hand. And now it's back to my face. So you can have AFC mode as autofocus continuous, which could introduce some jumping, but there's also autofocus S, AFS, and there's manual focusing, which you can use to adjust where the focus point is, maybe to the background. But I just click on face and it should jump back. You can see the box. So my face. So back to image settings. I like to have it at V0, which is warm colors. They say this is a Canon look. You can reduce the sharpness if the image is too sharp. So this is -10 and I can sharpen it further in post, but I'll put it back to +5. I'll leave it at +5. You can adjust your contrast if you want. That's the contrast, just messing around. And you can also adjust saturation. Maybe it's too colored, and I'll drop it down to, let's say, I think 41 seems to look very, very good. And you can also have it in 9:16, but you have to flip the camera to 9:16 or vertically, and I'll put it back to 16:9. So I've just typed your Filmmaker and I'll click confirm, and it saves. In previous version of this software, I couldn't save it without signing up to an account. So this is good to see that I can save a scene without needing to sign up, because not everyone wants the information everywhere on the internet. So that's very, very nice that you can do. And you have this scene where you have standard scene and your Filmmaker scene. So if I click standard, everything goes back. You see it's zoomed out, the lighting, exposure change. And this is mine, which is your Filmmaker. So this is very impressive. I updated the software on the camera just before I started recording. But before that, I wasn't able to do this without signing up or without logging in. So let's go back into parameter and go into AI parameter and let's see what it does. I haven't tried this part before, but if I click start, would you like to start automatic AI tuning? Confirm. Let's see what it does. For the best result, please keep yourself and the camera as still as possible once the host is in position. So I can see the blue light flickering. All right, now it is done. I don't know if there was any significant difference, but this is it with the AI parameter loaded. So that's it for the YoloLiv and Compose software. What do you guys think? Is this impressive? I like it. It seems to look much better than what it was before. I really like it. I think this is something to really consider. So let's be balanced. Here's where the mirrorless camera wins. You've got creative control, multiple lens options, true shallow depth of field, dynamic range for cinematic work, and rich colors. But here's also where this wins. You got speed, simplicity, stability, no extra gear needed. So should you sell your mirrorless camera for the S3? My answer is no. But if your main output is live content, streaming calls, meetings, YouTube talking head, videos, this might actually make sense if you're on a tight budget, because sometimes simplicity wins. For a proper 4K webcam, I think the S3 sits in a very interesting place. I've seen a lot of 4K webcams from other brands, and honestly, very few. I don't even think anyone comes this close. If there's one under $200 that beats this, I'd really love to know. So drop it in the comment section so I can know. Because if you're upgrading from a basic 1080p webcam, this feels like a serious jump. But if you already run a full cinema rig and enjoy that complexity, you probably don't need the S3. So here's my honest verdict. This is not replacing my S1 II. It's not going to replace a mirrorless camera, but for live streaming, Zoom calls, online teaching, and YouTube talking head content, it gets shockingly close. And for around $200, the Yolo S3 hits a really interesting sweet spot. If I were starting YouTube today and couldn't afford a mirrorless camera, this is honestly one of the few webcams I would confidently invest in, because balancing image quality, autofocus performance, and simplicity like this is absolutely rare in 2026. If this video helps you decide whether upgrading your webcam is worth it, please drop a like. It helps YouTube push this video to others who might be in the same position as you are. Links in the description if you want to check pricing in your region. If you're trying to level up your content without turning your decks into a film set with rigs of all sorts, this might be worth a serious look. It's your Filmmaker. Thanks for watching. God bless and peace.